So I have a confession. I think I may have changed my stance on tanking.
You are Locked On Kraken, your daily podcast on the Seattle Kraken.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what do you say, Seattle hockey fans? Welcome to another episode of Locked On Kraken, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where we bring you your favorite team, the Seattle Kraken, every single day. Erica L. Ayala here, your host of Locked On Kraken. I am also an analyst over at CBS Sports. Going to be talking some Frozen Four men's college hockey on CBS over the weekend. And then, of course, getting ready for the WNBA draft, where your Seattle Storm have the number 2 pick. So stay tuned for some of that. Oh man, we've got some things to talk about, including that I may have changed my mind. For those who are everydayers, first of all, thank you, my audio listeners. It's interesting to see the cities or the areas in the country where we have some of our audio listeners. Bozeman, Montana. I want to give you a special shout out, Bozeman, probably because I've been watching a lot of 1923 Alexandra. No spoilers. Anyway, but I noticed some of the stats from Bozeman, of course, from the greater Seattle area. But just thank you so much for tuning in. But for those who do tune in, you know I've been very bullish. I don't believe in tanking. I think it's weak, like as in how Kobe meant it. I've spoken to some athletes about it. We have that coming up on the Women's Hockey Report. Not this coming week. We're going to talk about Women's Worlds, but next week we have Jessie Eldridge from the Sirens, and I got a quote from her about that. Ian Furness just joined Mike Benton on the Kraken Audio Network. They talked a little bit about the mentality and why tanking is a ridiculous notion, or at least the idea that players are willingly tanking. So we've had this conversation for a really long time, and I feel very strong about my opinion. I am not team tank. I think it's weak. I think it's ridiculous. And, like Ian and Mike Benton were talking about, I've said this before, it's not even a particularly great draft class. They also mentioned that, the higher ups are saying this is not a rebuild. I guess Ian did break down, though, how do you define rebuild, retool, whatever. The semantics of the wording is interesting. But for the first time, man, I might have dipped my toe into the team tank waters. And let me tell you why. Because once again, the Seattle Kraken felt that they had to, I don't really know what's going on, start Joey Daccord. Joey Daccord played both games on the back-to-back and then played again tonight against the Vegas Golden Knights. And I'm just trying to understand, when we know that there's only 2 games left in the season and we are not going to the playoffs, and that we're going to need Joey Daccord next year, who already last year, we talked about this, last year, exit interviews towards the end of the season, he admitted it was a long slog. And let's not forget, before Joey Daccord joined the Seattle Kraken last year, oh wait, he was on a playoff run with the Charlotte Checkers and with the Coachella Valley Firebirds. My man has put on some serious mileage, and for whatever reason, we had to play him 2 periods in a back-to-back, and then again for the entire game against Vegas. So maybe if this team leaned into the tanking of it all, maybe we could get Joey some rest. Can you tell I'm a little bit PO'd about this? Every season, every single Seattle Kraken season, I come on this here microphone, not literally this one, but you get the point. I step in front of the mic, I get on in front of the camera, and there's inevitably a conversation at least once about how we're overworking whoever is taking the lion's share of the games. it's been Philip Grubauer. God bless Martin Jones. If you like a playoff run, you better thank your lucky stars that the Seattle Kraken had Martin Jones as a third option on their team. And then now it's been Joey Daccord for the last 2 seasons. We run our first choice in netminder into the ground. So yeah, maybe if this team leaned into the tanking of it all, team tank, hashtag team tank all the way, maybe then Joey could get some rest. Maybe he could get some rest. And, I'm pissed off about it. Also, probably because I'm a little tired. I traveled back to the East Coast, and we'll do that. Anyway, that's a whole nother story. I'm on the airplane catching up on stats, about to turn on Sirius FM and listen to Al and Everett, who, as always, do a fantastic. I love their chemistry. I've really enjoyed listening to radio broadcasts this season. That was my. I just need to take a little breath, take a break, but they're hilarious, and I love listening to them. And I look at the stats on NHL.com, and if you are watching the YouTube shorts that I put up, which I'm going to be doing a lot more of those, I did a little quick, recap from the airport or update from the airport, because I knew just with some things that I wasn't going to be able to record. I wanted to kind of hold off on recording today to hear what the what Dan Bilesma was going to say about the lineup. He didn't say much. And I was like, in that little video, I was like, there's no way we see Joey, right? But then I also said, okay, Victor Osman is no longer with the club. So now you have Philip Grubauer, but if he couldn't play in a back-to-back situation, which now you're putting Joey Daccord in a situation where he has to step up and do what he did, right? Gets scored on 7 times. It's like, either way, we were in a bad spot. Does that make sense? We just have Joey Daccord played both games on the back-to-back. Philip Grubauer back from whatever flu bug or whatever is happening, right? So, you either go with Joey, who we've been running into the ground, or potentially you go with Philip Grubauer, who in theory, right, should get the start, but the dude just recovered from some kind of flu bug, and now you want him to play goalie. And so I'm trying to understand why these were our only options. And I mean, Kansas City and Coachella Valley, they're going to the playoffs. So maybe keeping a goaltender like this Victor Osman healthy, as in literally healthy, he's not catching the bug. I completely get that. I do. He got his debut, did his thing, and then can now pursue a deep playoff run, right? But and I can understand that, but it goes back to why I so vehemently disagreed with the notion of sending Philip Grubauer back to Coachella Valley on waivers just so he can maybe kind of sort of be available for them in the postseason. And that's because what is the goal here, right? I think that even though we know those teams, our ECHL team, the Kansas City Mavericks, and our AHL team, the Coachella Valley Firebirds, even though we know that they're going to the postseason and winning is a part of the goal, I don't know. Am I the only one? Question of the day. Am I the only one that thinks the NHL team should take priority? And if your NHL goaltender is putting up redonkulous numbers, and it's not just the starts, right? It's not just the starts. He's come in relief for Philip Grubauer, but it's also the workload that I'm concerned about. What are we doing? There's 2 games left. I just am trying to understand why Joey had to play this game. But really, what I'm really not understanding is, why did Joey have to play 2 periods the other night against Utah? To me, that's the most egregious. And, we had some commenters on YouTube speaking about this, more so with, I think a lot of people were pretty put out about Shane Wright. People are put out about Shane Wright, which I completely get. But yeah, it's insane. George Costanza starting Joey, or he says Daccord, or they say Daccord, excuse me, I don't want to assume. Starting Daccord was a mistake, regardless of the result. Even if he played lights out and got the shutout, it would have been a mistake. He has played more than any goalie in the NHL over the past 38 games. For a team that has no chance of making the playoffs, this is mismanagement. And, I read that comment and I responded to George Costanza 3343 on YouTube. Thank you so much for watching and for commenting. We've had some exchanges on YouTube before. I was willing to offer a little more grace, but now I'm with Georgie here. I've felt this way before. So this isn't, to me, although there are very specific things under the Bylsma era, this isn't just a Dan Bylsma thing. I've mentioned that every year I get on here and I tell you that I'm worried about our goaltenders. Now, most of the time I'm telling you that because I don't think that this team has played disciplined defense, team defense. It's gotten a little bit better, but we do this really ticked me off today. Like I said, I don't know if it's just because I was a little bit punchy because I've been traveling all day. I had a doctor's appointment earlier. There's just a lot going on. And so maybe I'm just a little punchy, but I think it's probably that. But I think it's also that this is the last straw for me. Like, how many seasons are we going to do this and then still not figure out the right combination, the right duo for goaltending? I don't understand. And again, I can hold space for this was not the right game for Philip Grubauer to play. He wasn't available in Utah. But it's not just these last 2 games. Even before Philip Grubauer, where the wheels completely fell off, in my opinion. So that game that I was at in New Jersey, Philip Grubauer didn't have a great start there. But even before that, we just weren't seeing Philip Grubauer. And he's talked about that. How many times has he talked about getting into a rhythm, getting opportunities to get starts? I'm so tired. I'm so tired. And I worry about our precious goaltenders. I can't be the only one. George Costanza and I can't be the only ones worried about this. And then someone also chimed in because the Utah goaltender also, behemoth, massive workload. I just, I don't like it. And if I were Team Tank, I mean, honestly, bring in the e-bug at this point. Because I just don't understand why Victor Osman only got 1 period. I don't understand why Joey Daccord needed to play both the first and second period against Utah, get 7 goals rung up on him. And, you want to say, oh, well, it's not the debut that you want to. Okay, but I think Victor is going to understand this is hockey, like I guess I'm just trying to understand how we make decisions. What is chief? What is premier, paramount? Get it? Because I work for CBS. What is paramount? What is the most important thing for this organization? And I've asked this question before, but specifically right now, why are we running Joey Daccord into the ground? I don't get it. I don't like it. And I'm ticked off even more because the way that this has been handled has me rethinking tanking. That's how you know it's bad. When even I'm like, you know what? Lose the game. Because if that's what you think, that Philip Grubauer is a liability when your season is already over, then just everyone lose the game. Please. Let's not fake the funk. I just don't know. This was an epic rant. I haven't done one of these in a while, but, there's other things to talk about, including that, yes, this was a better effort from the team. I was just so irate that it was Joey Daccord in net. It was the last straw for me. I don't understand. And I want better for protect Joey at all costs. Give that man any bonus, any, pay for all of his recovery. I just all right, we're going to move on because if I keep talking about this, I'm just going to have a complete meltdown. But I'm not happy. I'm not happy with how goaltending has been handled this year. And sure, you want to make a statement, you want to send a message, you want people to reset, all of that, yada, 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 yada. There's just something fundamentally flawed in how this organization has been handling goaltending. And I drew a line with Joey Daccord playing in the last 3 games, starting in the last 3 games when there's only 2 games left in the season for a team that's not going to the playoffs. And I guess you could say, oh, well, we're not going to the playoffs, so, let that thing fly, let Joey play. No, just no. Any other player, literally every other player, including Philip Grubauer, that's my message. Let that thing fly. Let them play. Let them get their reps. Empty the tank. Joey has been emptying the tank for this team all season. Give that man a rest. Play the man. Play Philip Grubauer or whoever else is there on the bench, but give Joey rest. Give him rest. And you know what? Maybe Joey's saying that he wants to play those games. I respect that too. I think we got to somebody, some third party somewhere has to put on the thinking cap here. Somebody somewhere has to say, maybe we don't. And that's not what I'm seeing. Oh, okay. That was a rant of epic proportion. Let's talk a little bit more about this game with actual stats and facts coming up on Locked On Kraken.
Do you have trouble sleeping? If so, you're not alone. That used to be me, lacking rest, tossing and turning. I was late for meetings. I never felt like myself. That's until I found Bare Mattress. Bare Mattress and their sleep recovery technology helped me fall asleep faster as well as enjoy deeper sleeps. I felt like myself again, and you can too. Bare Mattress knows that every sleeper is different. That's why they have their sleep quiz on their website that finds you your perfect match. As a side sleeper, I matched with the Elite Hybrid mattress, and I've been telling everyone in my life they have to try Bare Mattress risk-free. You can sleep on your Bare Mattress up to 120 nights, and if you're not getting the best sleep of your life, you can get it refunded. They'll pick it up with absolutely no hassle. So go to baremattress.com and use my promo code LOCKEDONNHL at checkout to get 40% off site-wide. This offer is not available anywhere else. You have to use my promo code on the very last page of checkout to get this discount. That's bearmattress.com. Use my promo code LOCKEDONNHL for 40% off site-wide. Bearmattress.com, promo code LOCKEDONNHL.
Thanks as always for making Locked On Kraken a part of your daily destination. Whew, I needed to let some of that go. But Joey Daccord, if we look at Money Puck, he's one of the top goaltenders in saves above expected. In games played. Sixth, or excuse me, let's actually sort this. He is 10, tied with Philip Gustafsson and UC Saros. So workhorses for sure. Vamelka, playing a lot as well. Just give the man some rest. I don't know. Let me know in the chat. Are you with me here? Obviously, George Costanza is. Also talked about Shane Wright, but this was a little bit of a bounce back for the Seattle Kraken. We did hear from Jordan Eberle at the end of the game. You could tell he was still pretty PO'd. Felt that, and we also heard from Adam Larson. The team did have a bounce back. The team did start on time a little bit better, but it was turnovers. If you look at the goals and even the chances that Vegas had, lots of breakaways, lots of sloppy passing, and the Seattle Kraken need to figure that out. That was disappointing, and I think Eberle held space for the fact that it was a better performance, but not their best. We did hear from Jared McCann pregame that, the guys did talk about that Utah game. You have to talk about it, and then you flush it, right? We heard from the guys. So we like that, but still things that this Kraken team needs to work on. The shot quality was 2.6 compared to Vegas at 1.7. And there were chances. Ellie Tolvanen had a chance. Matty Beniers, 2-timer, and just missed. So there were chances, right? Puck battle win was 50-50. So I'm okay with that. Not considered a quality start for Joey Daccord. It was Aiden Hill in net. He did get a quality start, 24 saves, 25 shots faced. Power play, 0 for 2. Even our broadcasters, radio, TV, doesn't matter. Even the Kraken broadcasters are just fed up with having to talk about the power play and how it's no good. And Dan Bilesma after the game, he said those are opportunities. I'm paraphrasing. He talked about those being opportunities that are falling to the wayside. They're untapped resources for this Seattle Kraken team. So the power play wasn't necessarily one of the things that was improved. I will say that the penalties went down. It was funny to listen to Everett and Al because we didn't get our first penalty until, I believe it wasn't even until the third period. No penalties in the first or the second. So at least that's an improvement. I think the fatigue with Utah, they got in super early in the morning, apparently, at Utah. We heard that a few times in the scrums recently. That you could tell that the fatigue was leading to the penalties in the Utah game. Definitely saw that tighten up. And I mean, you stay in a 1-goal game with a team that Everett was breaking this down, has, multiple players that have or are in reach of 40 points, 50 points on the season. The Seattle Kraken don't have those in droves. And so, whether you want to say Vegas is playing a little different now that they kind of know what their fate is or not, But this is why I'm usually not team tank, because there's still lessons that this team can learn from games like this, from, games like Vancouver, LA, who we are going to host again. And I want to see them continue to push and strive. I just also want Joey Daccord to get some rest. A better game. I got my 3 wins before the end of the season, so I'm okay with that. But this is a Kraken team that still has a lot of things that need to be tweaked. The roster, people talking about Shane Wright and playing fourth line minutes. I think it's worth looking into a little bit. Jared McCann was asked about Shane Wright, and one of the things that he said that Shane Wright is still learning is, some of that discipline, some of, how to bounce back from things when maybe they're not going your way. I don't know if the reason we're seeing fourth line minutes from Shane is because of anything Shane is doing, or if it's symptomatic of so many different roster movements and changes and trying to get Shane, but specifically some of the other players, with someone that they're more familiar with. So I'm not as upset about some of the minutes that we're seeing from Shane, because I think he's playing a little bit of a glue or a bridge. And in that way, what I will say, and why I think that the comments are valid as to why we're not seeing more Shane, is because I think Shane, especially now that the Kraken are out of it, I think he's falling into the hole that Jared McCann fell into, in that his versatility, his ability to adapt and to, be able to be a leader even among the players that are getting their chance while they're up from Coachella Valley, that's an asset to this team, or at least it has potential to be. That does come, though, at the sacrifice of perhaps more growth and development for Shane. So it's a balancing act right now for the Seattle Kraken. So I'm going to hold off on complete criticism, just because I think that there are a few other factors involved, not just, we don't want to have Shane have more minutes. I think that could definitely be a part of it, but I want to investigate that a little bit more. Just think about it a little bit more, because I think more so what's happening is that Shane Wright is falling into the trap that I felt Jared McCann has fallen into. And I love to hear Mike Benton and Ian Furness on the Kraken Audio Network talk about that, because I've been saying it for a while. Jared McCann getting lost in the sauce, and somehow he still managed to make his spaghetti sauce, his gravy slap, even though he wasn't given the best, freshest ingredients. He did the best he could with what he got. And so I'm proud of him. But I think Shane's kind of falling into that hole. I get why people are frustrated, and there's a part of me that understands, if that is what's happening, why some of those decisions are made. But as you heard me rant about earlier on the program, I have my own bone to pick with some of the decisions that are made. Let's close out this show just taking a glimpse at what the standings look like. We do have some teams that were able to clinch and kind of know what their future holds. And the Seattle Kraken, they'll be back. Adam Larson talking about finishing strong for the fans, fan appreciation night, and the like. So we'll talk about that coming up on today's episode of Locked On Kraken. Today's episode of Locked On Kraken brought to you by our friends at Wonderful Pistachio. Looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving, has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 100% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help you keep fueling and feeling fuller for longer. So, Get snacking and get cracking, Seattle hockey fans, with the snack that packs a protein punch. I like to keep snacks that are going to keep me going right by my desk or in my travel bags because I'm always hangry. I might even be a little hangry right now. So I got to go find me some wonderful pistachios. You can visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. Hey, thanks as always for making Locked On Kraken a part of your daily destination. Erica L. Ayala here, completely fed up with how much we have worked Joey Daccord. But let's take a look at the standings. Teams that have clinched as of at least it's April 11th here on the East Coast. Toronto, Tampa, and Florida all in the East Atlantic. Metro, we've got Washington, the Hurricanes, and the Devils. Also officially now, the Washington Capitals have taken their the conference. So there you go. Ottawa also in. I think I talked about that a little bit the other day. Montreal in that top wild card spot. In the East. In the West, the Winnipeg Jets, the Dallas Stars, the Colorado Avalanche, the Vegas Golden Knights, who just beat us 2-1, the LA Kings, who we have coming in, all clinched. Edmonton hanging around. Minnesota has overtaken St. Louis. Both have 93 points, but Minnesota with the better win percentage on the season. 2 losses after 12 straight wins, 2 losses now for the St. Louis Blues. So things definitely picking up in the West. Vancouver, Utah now officially eliminated. Anaheim eliminated. We, of course, are eliminated. The Nashville Predators eliminated. Chicago, and of course, Team Tank is eliminated. The San Jose Sharks. So, the Seattle Kraken are going to come home. I think the biggest goal for me, win, lose, draw. You can't draw in hockey. Not really, anyway. Just give Joey some rest. Give him some rest. It's tough because, home fans maybe want to see him. All right, so give him 1 period if you must. But just give the guy some rest. Give the guy some rest. I need him to get some rest. And I hope that happens for him soon. Regarding the NHL Draft Lottery Simulator, odds for the number 1 pick right now for your Kraken, 8.5%, 5th best overall behind San Jose, Team Tank, 18.5% odds, Chicago, 13.5% odds, Nashville, 11.5% odds, Boston, at 9.5% odds, and your Seattle Kraken just ahead of Philadelphia by 1 percentage point in the NHL draft number 1 odds. Not a very deep draft class. That's what a lot of the analysts are saying. But again, if you listen to Mike Benton and Ian Furness, they repeated what we heard from Lywicki. This is not a rebuild. So, it's about getting what you can from the core that you have while also finding the right complementary pieces. Both the guys, Mike and Ian, think Isimon sticks around, but we'll have to see. Oh man, I think I tuckered myself out yelling about how Joey Daccord needs rest so much to the fact that I might embrace Team Tank. So I'm going to get some rest. I lost an hour traveling today. Be kind to yourselves. Be kind to one another. Hold fast, stay true, and let's go Kraken. I'll catch you on the next episode. Peace out, everybody.